Hey, this is James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting January the 27th, 2020. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this week's video reading. I am so happy to have you here. This week I wanted to work with Kipper, and specifically I wanted to work with Rupa Dudley's Kipper carton, so that is going to be the deck assisting me for this video reading. Rupa Dudley's Kipper carton is by Rupa Dudley, of course, and I will be leaving information about the deck in the description box below. So now that I've set things up, let's get to the table and take a closer look at what Rupa Dudley's Kipper carton wants to share with us about the week ahead. And here we are with the cards on the table, and I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the deck. And as I shuffle, I'm focusing on my usual intention for these weekly general readings. And that is for the information, for the insight, for the guidance and advice that is going to be most helpful and beneficial to come through the cards. I'm feeling one more time will be good. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to cut the deck. And now I'm going to fan the cards out. And I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention because I want to continue working with the line of 5 that I've been working with these past few readings. Alright, I've picked the 5 cards. I'm going to take the remainder of the deck and move it to one side. And now I'm going to count back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And lay the cards from left to right in the line. Alright. And so when I work with Kipper, I like to read the cards from left to right. So starting with the card on the far left, opening the line up. Starting our story off this week, we have the fraud card. Okay, so the fraud card can talk about something being wrong, something being bad, or some kind of mistake or error, right? This is a person card, but typically the meanings that I just gave are usually first and foremost. It's usually secondary if it's about a person. But if it is a person, then this is a person who is insincere or somebody who is putting up a false front, because this card in the deck system is known as a cause and effect card. So typically can represent something being hidden, and you want to look at the card that's behind it to show what's being hidden, and then the effect is going to be the card that's in front of it. So since we don't have a card behind it that represents a cause, we could go ahead and suggest that if something is being hidden, we do not know why. The cause is unknown, right? But we can still see what's going to be the effect of the concealment, if you will, right? Another thing about this card for me, if I go with the idea that it can represent a person and a person putting on a false front, then this card can sometimes represent, for me personally, actors, right? Because actors take on roles and they are not their own, right? So they are playing someone else, right? So it could just be a matter of, we have to be mindful of the roles that we choose to play or adopt this week, especially those that may counter or go against who we are truly as people, right? So that would be something that I would offer. But typically this card can represent, again, like I said at the start, something that is wrong, something that is bad, some kind of mistake, or some kind of error, right? And it could be, as I'm saying that, there may be a mistake or something being wrong or something being an error that someone is trying to conceal. That may be another possibility as well, right? But fraud would suggest that something on its surface doesn't seem right. Something is off, right? So there's that. So now let's take a look at the card that is in front of fraud, because again, this is what's being affected. Okay. So here we have social media. So this is very interesting. So I would go with the social media card. First, let me just say that Rupa has added additional cards in her deck. And so this is one of the extra cards. And so I like this card. There are certain cards that I have added to my own personal deck. And so what I love about the extra cards, it makes the deck more custom. You can customize it to your own personal preference. So I have done that with social media. So social media can literally be about social media. So it could be all social media platforms, those kinds of things. So you can think of things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those kinds of things. So there may be something having to do with something being falsely portrayed on social media or in public, because this for me could be a card that can also represent the public, right? It could also be something having to do with media in and of itself. If it's not social media, like the social media platforms like I just mentioned, then it could just be something having to do with media. Any kind of media or programming that would reach the social or social consciousness, right? But it makes me feel like there's something wrong or off about maybe somebody's role or part, and it has to do with social media. How they're being portrayed on social media is not the truth, right? And again, going with the idea that the fraud card can represent an actor or somebody who's playing a part, but there may be a social media component to that, right? Or it could be that there's going to be something that's wrong about a person that may be revealed through social media. But now if we don't make it about the social media stratosphere, and we bring it back to maybe a more personal take or possibility or message, then it could just be, I'm seeing with these two cards, is about going through the week maybe with a greater sense of awareness about the roles that you adopt or the roles that you play when it comes to being out in the public, right? Are you being authentic or are you being inauthentic? That's what I'm getting with these two cards. And so that may be a personal message, for each of us, as well as the other message about maybe somebody being exposed for maybe trying to conceal something, hide something, being inauthentic on social media. Right, and here's the thing too. This is another message that's coming in for me. Sometimes we can fall into the comparison trap. I call it the comparison trap. We play the game of comparing ourselves to other people, and we tend to maybe take a look at their social media platforms and profiles, and we look at all the pretty pictures of the things that they're wearing or the things that they're doing or the places that they're going. And we may take a look at our lives in comparison to them, but that's not entirely the truth. They're not showing you every aspect of their lives. They're only showing you the pretty aspects or the aspects that they want you to buy into, right? So just keep that in mind. If you are spending time comparing yourself to other people on social media and feeling like you are coming up short, then let these two cards offer you the message that you're not seeing everything about that person or those people's lives, right? You're only seeing what they want you to see, right? And who doesn't want you to see all the good stuff, right? So just keep that in mind. So that's another message about fraud and social media that I wanted to share. So now let's move on to the middle card. For me, the middle card usually represents the heart of the line or the heart of the story or the central issue or something that we're being asked to focus on. So taking a look at this card, we have the profession card. So if I go mirroring the cards, and I'm talking about mirroring fraud and profession, with the social media card, there may be something having to do with someone's career, because I tend to look at the profession card as what we do for work, right? So there may be something about someone's career, and it may be a celebrity. If I go with the idea that I said that the fraud card can represent an actor, so it could be something having to do with an actor or actress, and maybe a story involving social media, right? It's making me feel like their social media presence, right? Now, if it's not about a celebrity or an actor in particular, then the profession card can be talking about our work. And as the middle of the card, it could represent focusing on our work. And so that could be in the literal sense. There may be a need to focus on our jobs and our professions this week, right? And if we go with the social media card in this, it could be like in our job situations, our job environments. What is the image that we want to project? How do we want to be seen in those environments? Is the image that people have of us, is it accurate? Is it authentic? Or are we playing a part because we want to be perceived a certain way? And for some people, if this is about your profession, you may be encouraged by the cards this week. Maybe there's something about your social media presence. I'm seeing, especially if you're self-employed, this is coming to me in the moment. If you're self-employed, there may be something about gaining or creating a greater sense of awareness through social media and social media platforms about you and your business. But again, we have this reminder about making sure that if you're going to do that, making sure that you're being authentic. And then there's also, for me, a message here for maybe one particular person or some people, if it resonates with more than one person. There may be something having to do with something that was posted on social media involving you, and it may affect, remember now, this is cause and effect, right? Fraud is the cause card, and we're moving into the effect. And it may have an effect on your profession. I know for some people that you have to be very mindful, you have to be very aware of what you post on social media, especially your personal social media pages, because people who know you from your job can see it. So I'm seeing something along those lines. It's like making me want to share the possibility of someone maybe having a problem with the job as a result of something that was posted on social media. So there are some possibilities here. One, again, something having to do with an actor and something that's been posted on social media regarding him or her. Two, if you are a professional and you are looking to grow your business, one way may be through social media platforms to gain a greater sense of awareness. And then three is that there may be some effect for someone on their job, and it has to do with a social media post. Now, coming back to the profession card in another way. What I love about the image is that we clearly have a mathematics teacher, right? And she's standing in front of her chalkboard, and she has different formulas, geometric shapes, looks like geometry to me, going on there on the board. So this card for me can also represent taking time to figure out a problem, right? If we go with the mathematics, and this is about using logic or your rational mind to try and figure a problem out, right? Or it may be about using a particular formula, going with geometry, it's all about formulas, using a particular formula and putting that formula to work, right? So you may discover a theory, a concept, a formula, and now you're being asked to apply that to your life to see how it works. But math in and of itself for me can represent the logical mind. So it's about using reason, being rational, analytical, those kinds of things. So again, if it's not about your actual profession, it may be that we are trying to put some energy into figuring a problem out. Okay, so now let's move on to the next card. And here we have the parlor card. Okay, so I'm seeing, with this card, I'm seeing a different kind of message here. So parlor for me is a card that can represent intimacy and private space and personal space. So the message is coming to me, it's the counter opposite to the social media. This is all about the public, being social, things of that nature. And then on this side we have intimacy, personal space, privacy. So for some people it may be, how do we figure out the balance between being social and a need for our own personal space and privacy? Now it could also be, if we go with the entity known as social media these days and social media platforms, there may be something about privacy issues. I'm seeing like personal information, privacy issues. Then this takes on a different message about the error of social media platforms and how they use our personal information, that kind of thing. But on a more personal level, I'm seeing like how do we work on, how do we come up, how do we solve the problem of balancing our public lives and our personal lives, right? And if I go back to what I said over here about the comparison trap, then remember things that are shown on social media by individuals isn't everything. You don't get to see their very personal lives or personal details of their lives, I should say, right? Again, it's only about them showing you what they want you to see, but you don't get to see everything, right? And it could be a matter of some people deciding that they don't want to share everything, right? They want to maintain some level of privacy. Coming back to the first card, it makes me think of like actors and celebrities. And just because you're in the public eye doesn't mean that you have to share intimate personal details of every aspect of your life. And so since I'm talking about celebrities and actors, maybe in your own stage production, and that's an analogy or something metaphorical having to do with your life and your life story, you may be coming to a place where you're realizing now that maybe you're wanting to strike a balance between oversharing and maybe not sharing enough, between being very public and very social and your personal life, your privacy. And so one word with that, if I go with this entire line, one word that I would come up with, it's a matter of boundaries. So it could just be a matter of where do we need to set better boundaries this week? And that could be in our social circles and maybe on social media, especially if we're feeling like we need more personal time or personal space or privacy. Then it's a matter of setting a better boundary or boundaries. So now let's take a look at the last card, rounding out the line. And here we have, okay, so this is a card that I thought might show up, and it's the Cosmic Connection card. So just like social media, it is one of the extra cards in the deck. And so Cosmic Connection can come up when I tend to look at it as everything being connected, and it would suggest that there is a larger picture or a bigger picture component to what's going on. So there may be something that maybe that we get to learn if we go back to the very first card. And it's making me feel like learning something about a particular celebrity or somebody who is a social media darling or somebody who's known for, being on a particular social media platform, and maybe it's tied to their profession. We learn through their experience there's a bigger story. So what's the larger story? What's the bigger story? What's the takeaway that we can apply to our own lives? Right? This card would make me feel like there's a situation that may take place and you realize you have a much larger sense of awareness about it. After you go through it, of course, you come to the end of it or on the other side of it with a greater sense of awareness. This card for me, I tend to think of the universe, and one of the things as a spiritual person that I've learned is that I see things being interconnected, right? And this card makes me feel like everything is connected, right? There's all these cogs on the card, and they're all connected to other cogs, right? So it makes me feel like the end result or the takeaway from whatever we experience is asking ourselves, what's the bigger picture here? What's at work in the larger sense here? Right? How are all these things interconnected, right? You may be taking or seeing things or situations or experiences that don't seem to be related in any way at all, and then you see how they may be interconnected, right? You may be seeing them in a larger sense or context, right? So that's what I'm seeing with cosmic connection. Again, it's making me feel like something that may be of a universal nature, or that we see a greater connection in our experiences, or that maybe through the experiences of other people, we can relate to that because there is some sort of connection there. And we can take that and put that to work. That lesson right now. Remember, if I go back to the profession card, she's a teacher, right? So teachers are all about learning, education, knowledge, right? So it's making me feel like with these two cards, if I mirror them, there's something that's to be learned, and we get to see maybe a bigger implication, larger context, a greater sense of awareness, seeing the bigger picture, all those things that I've already said. But it makes me feel like if I mirror these two cards, they make sense in that regard. You know, learning a lesson, being taught something, and we get to see the ramifications of it in a bigger light or a bigger way. And so on that note, I will go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week, one in which you reach a greater sense of awareness and you see and make cosmic connections. Take care.